Hey guys, Wendy with MobiliQuest. We're here today with Shelly Simmons, Executive Director of the Statewide Independent Living Council. And Shelly has a degree in communications. She was the program coordinator for Bell McIntosh Center in California. She was also benefits navigator with Disability Resource Center. She was a housing coordinator here with SILC before she became the executive director. She has been here for a total of 11 years. Shelly, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So talk to me about exactly what the Statewide Independent Living Council does. I know I saw a lot of different things on the website, including like the results of the council. What you want to do is personal assistive services, visitable housing, funding to retrofit housing and things like that. Tell me exactly what you guys do, and then I have some questions for you.
Well, the Statewide Independent Living Council is actually a federally mandated organization. So every state and territory has a SILC office. And we are primarily a policy-driven entity. So we work closely with our legislature and other key stakeholders to help promote and create policy that will benefit individuals with disabilities. It is also our main responsibility to develop our state plan for independent living. And we have to develop a plan every 3 years, submit this to the federal government as a strategic plan on how we can make things better here in the state of Georgia. And in that process, we just completed actually developing our state plan, which will be implemented starting October 1st of this year. And our focus will be on employment, housing, transportation, and awareness, and also emergency preparedness for individuals with disabilities. So we do a lot of different things. Again, just trying to bring more awareness and just trying to make things a lot better for people here in Georgia. We also work closely with our centers for independent living. We have 9 centers throughout the state, and they are the consumer-based entity. So if anybody is looking for services, support, resources, then they will contact the Center for Independent Living.
Okay. All right. That's what's going to be one of my questions. So the consumers don't come directly to you guys. They go to somewhere else to get direct resources.
Correct.
Okay. So give me an example of a piece of legislation, if you can, that is being worked on, or this, you talked about the one that's coming up in October.
Mm-hmm.
So give me an example of something that is going to be changed directly because of the legislation that is being passed.
Well, right now, what we're planning to work on in regards to employment is that individuals with disabilities will be paid a livable wage. Right now, there is a policy in place, section 14C, which is basically where individuals can be paid sub-minimum wages. And we want to try to phase out that policy. We did receive some traction during the last General Assembly, but it failed, it didn't pass. So this will be some things that we will continue to be working on. Also in regards to employment, individuals who receive home and community-based services, say if somebody needs somebody to come into their home to help provide a service with their daily living activities. Well, if this individual goes to work and earns a certain amount of money, they can actually lose that particular service. So it really doesn't make sense. The very service that you need to help get yourself up, dressed, ready to go to work, is at risk of being lost if you earn too much money. So we're trying to develop policy where it will be a cost share program. So the individual participating, the person with a disability, will pay into the system in order to participate and be able to work and not risk losing their benefits. So it's been a challenge. It's something that the SILC office has been working on for years. And what makes it challenging is that home and community-based services are not a part of the Georgia state plan, whereas a lot of states already have it included. Georgia does not. So there are different branches that we have to look at. Social Security has to be involved. Centers for Medicaid and Medicare services have to be involved. The waiver program itself has to be involved. So there's a lot of different prongs that we have to look at. So we try to educate our legislature yearly, and this doesn't stop. We have the General Assembly, but we also do summer visits, trying to meet our legislature within their own districts to let them know about some of the things that we're working on. So that's one main thing that we will focus on. We also try to, we're working with a developer, LDG, in regards to housing, to encourage them to do more affordable and accessible housing. And I don't know if you're really familiar, but if you look at the landscape of the city of Atlanta, there are cranes all over the place, but there's nothing in regards to affordable housing. And so that component within itself is pushing individuals who are on fixed incomes and with disabilities further away from the city and resources. So transportation will become an issue. People are not going to be able to access their doctors or just being able to reach family without transportation if they're continually being forced out to find more affordable and accessible housing. So we've established a really good relationship with LDG, and they have a development that's right across the street from one of the modern train stations. And they should be opening up later this year, and they have some set-asides for people with disabilities. And so we're going to be developing a list of potential people who will be able to access some of these affordable and accessible units.
Nice. That was one of my things I was looking at, was the idea of visitability, so that I know that there has to be like at least one door that is zero entry, and the doors have to be wide enough, and then at least one bathroom on the main level that a wheelchair can get in and turn around. And so the idea of getting those types of things sort of mainstream, those ideas, that to me just makes so much sense. I don't really know why we don't do that already.
And it's hard. You would not believe some of the pushback that we've received from developers or flippers. And what we try to do is educate and even change the narrative to say that it's not only for people with disabilities, it's universal. It can be for a young family that's using a stroller to be able to get in and out of their home. A young family where, a kid may have broken a leg playing soccer, having at least one accessible bedroom, bathroom, zero-step entry. And it can be so seamless. And developers say, well, you can't do that. Well, if you think about it, your banks, your grocery stores, it's just on the topography on how you landscape in the beginning. And it can be very simple. Yeah, it can be done. But it's really interesting that developers don't see the value in having a universally designed home. What if you have to have an aging parent come and stay with you? Some of these things just make sense. And again, we try to change the narrative to be more inclusive instead of just talking about people with disabilities. And presenting that is making people think a little bit more about if they're flipping a home. Every home may not be able to be made accessible. But just having a wider door if a walker had to get through it, or a wheelchair had to get through it. Just simple things. And doing it up front instead of waiting until after a home is developed will make it much more economically feasible for the developer, because widening a door during the building process, all of your entries can maybe add an additional $300 to what you're doing. And it's just simple, but
Instead of the thousands of dollars to come back
Absolutely.
at some point later. I can tell you, we moved in with my mom a year and a half ago, and she, in that time, has had to be in a wheelchair because of a surgery, and now she walks with a walker. So we had to build a ramp on the front of the house, and not the easiest situation getting around inside the house.
Right.
And it's because it wasn't built or thought of along the way that at some point she may need, to have
Absolutely.
everything one level. And, I can tell you from personal experience using that ramp out front, as I have said to my husband, that's the best thing ever. I think everybody should have, because that makes it so much easier to bring in,
Absolutely.
if you're bringing in furniture or groceries or
Absolutely.
whatever, it's just so much better than stairs. So I love the idea. And if people people got used to having that, they'd be like, why don't we have this all the time?
All the time.
Why don't we? So yeah, I hope that more people will begin to ask for those features, because at some point, like my mom, at some point, we're all going to get to the point where we
yeah,
need to understand that we have to look at things differently in our
long term.
homes
Right.
to be able to stay there long term.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to happen to all of us.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get there. We're going to need that.
Live long enough and you're
Yeah.
going to experience something.
Exactly.
And so, and with that, again, as you mentioned, not only is it good for the buyer to be able to stay there long term, but it's a selling point as well. People are looking for these features. As you mentioned, going to live with your mom. And when we first moved here to Georgia, my family, we built a home. I was in the basement, my parents were on the main floor, and my sister was up in the loft. And we had an elevator. And so the builder at the time said, that she will just start to include a shaft in some of her development. So if anybody needs to put something at a later date, it would be there. So just small planning in advance will make things a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. I see it. I live it.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And this one little thing in regards to housing, we do have what's called the Home Access Program. And we received funding from the Department of Community Affairs. We average about $100,000 every year to help with home modifications around the state. We've advocated for more, but we haven't received that. And we have a wait list of over 700 individuals.
Wow.
From around the state that are looking for simple home modifications, like a ramp, widening doors in a lot of older homes here in Georgia, bathroom modifications, where people aren't able to step into a tub anymore,
Right.
looking for a roll-in shower. And with the 100,000, now we're able to do maybe 9-10 jobs a year, and it's really a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But we want people to be able to stay in their home and to be able to safely navigate their home in that process. So that's something that we advocate for year in and year out. And we try to present the stories to our legislature so that we can get more funding. So we need all the help that we can in that aspect. So the centers, they do a great job, but the funding goes quickly. I think the fiscal year for the state started July 1, we already have 5 jobs. So more than likely that funding may be gone by the end of the year.
Right.
And then we have to turn people away, which is not something we like to do.
No.
because people truly, truly need it.
So how can people that are watching, how can they support SILC? What can they do to support you guys?
And I think with anyone, not only supporting SILC, but just your community, is get to know your legislature, your representative that's in your local area. Say, hey, this organization provides home access program. And I think that's great. You need to add money to that pot. We have an annual fundraiser once a year. We're going to be having it October 3rd. We'll accept donations. And if you could just tell us that this is where you want the money to be applied, that's where it will go. 100% of your proceeds will go towards a program like home access.
Okay. Okay. Well, Shelly, thank you so much for talking with me today and explaining some things that need to be addressed and that definitely need to be out in the forefront. And I'm glad that you guys are here tackling these issues.
Thank you. We're the best kept secret, but we're trying to get our name out there so that people are more aware and to be able to support us in every way that they can.
Yes. Well, I would love to be part of that. I'm glad that I get to be a little part of that. Guys, I hope that you will support and do exactly what she said, learn who your legislatures are, and when the event is coming up to be able to donate, please. And I appreciate you again, Shelly, for being here. Thank you so much for letting me come and do this today. And guys, we will see you next time.